The dirt of the obsidian woods was slick with her own blood, but Vailia's grip on the bone-handled knife didn't slip. Beneath her, Warlord Draven's advanced armor hissed, leaking coolant and sparking violently. She pressed the primitive edge harder against his exposed throat, chest heaving. One twitch and an empire fell. Are you ready to see an empire bleed? Subscribe to join the rebellion because this forest takes no prisoners. The deep, persistent ache in her ribs had started exactly 3 weeks earlier, right around the time the last of her emergency rations ran out. The obsidian woods did not care about royal titles. Vailia dragged her boots through the dense, needle-strewn underbrush, her lungs burning, her breath catching with every ragged step. Her luminoglass amulet hung heavy and dead against her collarbone, a cold, dark stone mocking her severed connection to the Imperial network. She had no navigational interface, no kinetic shielding, just the distant, mechanical whine of Dominion search patrols hunting her through the timber. They had her boxed in. She saw the sweep of their thermal lasers cutting through the canopy, pinpointing her exact location for Warlord Draven's extraction teams. She braced her aching spine against a rough-barked trunk, drawing a useless ceremonial dagger with trembling fingers. Then the sky tore open. A Terran spacecraft, trailing thick black smoke, violently crashed into the tree line. The impact shattered the earth, sending a concussive shockwave that threw Vailia backward into the dirt. The pursuing Dominion troops were scattered like ash, their formation obliterated by the sheer kinetic force of the wrecked hull. Blackness took her. She woke to the acrid smell of burning wood, not plasma, but raw manual fire. A coarse wool blanket, scratching against her bruised neck, covered her shoulders. Through the smoke, Vailia watched a Terran male, Elias Vance, hauling heavy composite debris to reinforce a makeshift shelter. He didn't have a synth weaver. He was tying knots with his bare, bloodied hands. When he saw she was awake, he didn't bow. He tossed a dented metal canteen. It hit her chest with a dull thud. "Drink," he said, his voice grating against the quiet. "Then I show you how to filter the mud out of it." Over the next few days, Elias dismantled her dependency. He stripped her of her dead technology and replaced it with calluses. Vailia watched his massive hands carve deadfalls and wire traps. She learned the grueling physical mechanics of survival, the tension of a tripwire, the bitter, chalky taste of foraged roots, the absolute necessity of silence. They were preparing, not to run but to strike. What happens when a royal learns to fight dirty? Subscribe to see the spark that ignites a revolution. They charted a path toward the Dominion's forward operating base, armed with nothing but Elias's scavenged electromagnetic explosives and her intimate knowledge of Imperial security blind spots. She was no longer a politician. She was a weapon sharpening itself against the earth, ready to plunge into the heart of their machinery. The electromagnetic blast tasted like copper and charged air, stripping the Dominion base of its mechanical hum. Kinetic shields dropped in a cascading wave of failure. When the smoke cleared, Vailia and Elias weren't alone. Dozens of Solari civilians, starving, terrified, tracking the explosion, stumbled into the tree line. Vailia's luminoglass amulet flickered against her collarbone, a faint, ghostly pulse catching the local biometric signatures of her people. But she ignored the digital interface. She simply watched Elias hand a trembling baker a sharpened wooden spear, adjusting the man's grip with quiet, brutal efficiency. Emperor Valerius didn't send search patrols to follow up. He brought the royal fleet. The sky burned a violent purple as heavy dreadnoughts crushed the ancient canopy, touching down in a storm of exhaust. Elite guards poured into the clearing, weapons hot, expecting to slaughter a disorganized rabble. Instead, the forest tore them apart. Hidden pits swallowed heavily armored troopers. Swinging deadfalls crushed their optics. In the center of the chaos, Warlord Draven locked eyes with Vailia and charged, his servos whining. She didn't retreat. She lured him backward into the mud trench, stepping perfectly over the tripwire Elias had woven days ago. Draven's heavy boot caught the snare. The tension line snapped tight, violently crushing the delicate servomotors of his greaves. He crashed hard into the mire, his plasma rifle spinning away. She was on him before the mud even settled. And now, pressing the bone-handled knife harder against his exposed throat, she watched the warlord's eyes widen in sheer primal terror. His armor hissed and died. He spat a curse, but slowly raised an open, trembling palm. He yielded. Around them, the elite guard halted, their weapons wavering as their invincible commander bled into the crude dirt. By nightfall, evacuation klaxons echoed through the timber. Valerius's towering hologram flickered over the camp, formally offering her the imperial crest, begging her to restore order. Vaelia looked at her blistered, dirt-caked hands, then at the militia standing behind her. She told the emperor to run. The deafening roar of Elias's reconstructed vessel shook the leaves as he broke orbit, leaving her to the quiet of the woods. Vaelia stood at the center of the clearing, holding the softly glowing luminoglass amulet. It pulsed with the desperate, lingering signal of an empire waiting for her command. She dropped the stone into the wet earth and drove the heel of her boot down, grinding it until the light shattered into silent, dark glass. Sometimes the only way to find your true strength is to sever your connection to the past. Would you break your own chains if it meant standing entirely alone? Subscribe to the Chronicles, and I'll see you tomorrow for a story about a distress beacon that never wanted to be found.